A US contractor has been killed in an attack on an Iraqi military base. Several rockets were fired into the base near Kirkuk. It houses both Iraqi and US troops. Several service personnel are also.
This attack occurred last night. There were several rockets that hit inside the K1 military base, which houses both US forces as well as Iraqi forces. And this base is used to launch important operations against ISIL, who have staged an insurgency in the surrounding mountains. Now, this is just the latest in a spate of similar rocket attacks, but it's the first time that we're actually seeing U.S. casualties. There has not been any responsibility attributed to this, but unofficially one member of the U.S. coalition told me that it bears similar hallmarks to previous attacks, which were attributed to the Iranian-backed armed group Kataib Hezbollah. Now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said on December 13th that any such attacks would be met with decisive force. So it remains to be seen whether following these U.S. casualties there will actually be such a response. And of course, this raises great concerns here in Iraq, because it's supposed to be the Iraqi government to actually protect U.S. forces based here. And the government did promise an investigation, but on the part of U.S. forces, they simply feel that with the increase of such attacks, they may need to protect themselves. And of course, there is a real risk that should the U.S. respond, there could be an escalation here on the ground between U.S. forces and Iranian-backed armed groups.
Tents go up in the Syrian town of Danar, now a temporary home for families with nowhere else to go. They fled Marat al-Numan in the south of Idlib province as Syrian government forces advance, many leaving most of their belongings behind.
We fled from the bombardment and came here. It's a small camp that doesn't really fit a lot of people, and the people just keep coming. The situation is hard.
Since the start of December, nearly 250,000 people have been displaced from Idlib, the last rebel-held area of Syria. Most are women and children. Many have fled by road. For others, fuel shortages have stopped them from getting away. Some are trying to seek shelter in Turkey, but they're not being allowed to cross the border. President Bashar al-Assad has vowed to recapture rebel-held areas. Shelling and airstrikes backed by Russia have intensified, forcing aid agencies to suspend operations in the area. Unless the fighting ends, there are fears that the supply of humanitarian aid will stop as soon as next month.
In my mind, it's neither the Russians nor the Turks that are the key to the solution. The key to the solution is the international community getting involved in this and putting pressure both on the Syrian regime in Russia and Turkey for a resolution that doesn't cause massive human loss of life or a humanitarian catastrophe.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
The violence goes against an August ceasefire deal and international calls for a de-escalation, but the Syrian government says recapturing the province is just a matter of time.